மிஸ்டர் கோல்ட் கடல எண்ணெய் தான் வாங்குறேன். ஏன் தெரியுமா?
சாதாரண ஆயிலை விட சமையல் டேஸ்டாவும் இருக்கும், ஹெல்தியாவும் இருக்கும்.
Oscar is always on right track. That is why Fast Track Taxi app உடனே டவுன்லோட் பண்ணுங்க.
Summer holidays வந்தாச்சு, நம்ம GT Holidays வந்தாச்சு. GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
This is something I wanted to experience firsthand. I could form my own team.
The 24H series for 2025.
That is the one thing that makes the 24H series so special, is the list of iconic circuits that we go to. We kicked off the season just under a month ago at Mugello, where we had dry, we had wet, and we had everything in between. Might we get the same thing here at Spa? Quite possibly. We also go to the Italian seaside in just over a month's time in Misano, and then to the blazing heat, surely, of Paul Ricard in early July. And then, of course, our traditional curtain call, which is the 24 hours of Barcelona at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Lots of racing still to go, and a wide open field of machinery across all of our classes. Now, weather is always a talking point here at Spa. When we arrived yesterday, it was pretty wet. It's been raining all through the night, and when we arrived this morning, the track was very, very wet. The teams have had quite a lot of wet track time, but very, very little dry track time. But the weather this afternoon really come quite nicely, Ben.
Warm, but only 11 degrees air temperature. That's probably taken in the shade, I imagine. And so there could be more warmth in the tarmac, where we've got darker tarmac. Obviously, this circuit completely resurfaced after last year, before last year. So the race last year was on a different surface to this year. The resurfacing was done, if I remember correctly, after the 24H series visited here for the 12 hours.
Well, certainly the lap times in the dry have been impressive so far. It's not just myself, Peter Mackay and Ben Constanduros in the commentary box. We have Diana Binks down in the pits, who's getting involved in all of the atmosphere before qualifying begins. Diana.
Yes, just waiting for everything to get underway here down in the pit lane. The teams are now firing up the engines on the cars, so they're going to be heading out onto the track very soon. Now, you were talking about the weather a minute ago, but it's sunshine down here now, and it's actually quite warm. So clouds still in the sky. I think some of the track is still a little bit damp, but everyone's ready for this qualifying session. So this will be 3 15-minute qualifying sessions, and then the team's drivers come in, change driver, and it has to be a different driver in each session. So they'll get a 5-minute break in between, just have a quick debrief chat and decide what their strategy is for each session as they go out on track. So we'll be keeping you up to date with what's going on as the cars are now starting to make their way down to the pit exit.
So qualifying here works slightly differently. It is an aggregate qualifying, where we have 3 sessions where each team has to put a different driver in for each session, and an average time is taken across the board. In Mugello, we actually had the classes separated out to have their own track time, but whereas today here at Spa, we have a much larger circuit, 7 kilometres in length, and there's a little bit more room for everybody. So in general, we can get everybody out there. So you can see TCE cars, we're getting GT3 cars, Porsche Cups, everybody goes out and gets involved with this first qualifying.
Track license allows this circuit to have 91 cars start a race if you wanted to for this particular championship. It grows to up to 160 if you have the likes of the 25-hour Fun Cup. But we could have had up to 91 cars if we so wanted. 110 in practice. That's why, with just over 7 kilometres in length, plenty of space in theory for all of these drivers to get themselves a decent amount of space and not be compromised with those different classes. A lot of classes running at around about the same speeds, all of our GT3 cars and our 992 cars, and we only have 4 GT4 cars and a couple of, well, just 2 TCE cars on the entry list and a couple of GTX machines. So not a great deal of change or difference in the speed of the cars. There is one car on our entry list, which we say welcome back to James Collins and Kevin Clark in their BMW M3 E46. Used to be a mainstay of Creventic racing, those cars, but unfortunately, as more and more people have got access to the likes of your 992s and your GT3s, people have moved away from the trusty steeds that they used to have.
Well, that car actually has a really cool history. This is the 133 JMEC engineering car. James Collins brought it to Barcelona last year, and he had Jimmy Broadbent driving the car with him. And that car is actually, it used to live in Scotland. It was owned by a guy called Ian Bonthorne, who raced it in Scottish Mod Sports and Superlap Scotland Time Attack. So it went from being a Time Attack car to a 24-hour racing car. It's painted very differently. It used to be black, blue and red, and capable of around 53-second lap round Knockhill in its guise. I'm sure it's been modified since then, but really cool to see that. Ian Bonthorne from Bonthorne Security Services in Scotland. He'll be delighted to see his car out there in Spa. So in this first qualifying session, if you have an AM driver, a non-professional driver in your lineup, you have to field them in this session. So the idea being that as we go from session 1 to session 2 and then session 3, the lap times will ratchet up. It also means that the non-professional drivers, they get to enjoy a new set of tyres as well. The same set of Michelin tyres are used for all 3 sessions. The car shouldn't be adjusted throughout these 3 qualifying sessions.
Plenty of track time, of course, already been had by many of the drivers. There's been 2 days worth of testing. Unfortunately, from our original entry list, we have lost a couple of cars, and mainly due to Eau Rouge. That has claimed 3 GT3 cars. There was also a prototype that was crashed there a few days ago, and that has meant the withdrawal, particularly, I suppose, of the Come To You Racing Aston Martin. The Works Aston Martin team here for the first time in Creventic. They're so excited to be part of the 12-hour series, and Come To You Racing, I think, only about 60 kilometers away from Spa, their factory, so it was logical that they would be here. But unfortunately, the car that was supposed to have Sergei Sette camera aboard was crashed at Eau Rouge and withdrawn. We also lost an RPM Porsche, but that has been replaced by a second car, and Ajith Kumar, I'm afraid, he binned a Porsche there as well, and is still on the entry list, but has moved garages for this weekend from Baz Kooten Racing. Someone's facing the wrong direction there. Yeah, just coming in between Lecombe and Malmedy. Car just a little bit delayed there. Looks like the number 925. Yeah, so that's Van Berlo Motorsport. Yes. There he is, reversing off the road. Whoops. That's run by Baz Kooten, that machine. So should be Marcel in that car at the moment. You don't get a great deal of laps here with only 15 minutes in a qualifying session. It's a long lap around, you know, at the best, you know, be well, in a full dry lap, we should see down to maybe 2:15 today. We saw 2:16 in a sort of drying free practice earlier on. So, you know, you're only going to get out and get a handful of quick laps in. So you've got to get on with it and get out there and put the lap times. It's such a shame for Come To You Racing with their Aston Martins, Ben, because they came to Dubai with 2 cars and they didn't have the luck at all. And then when I saw them on the entry list, I thought, that's great. The reigning Spa 24-hour winner. Well, yes, also come to this 12 hours of Spa, and yeah, it's just not gone their way. The teams and drivers, they've had a lot of chance for track time, but it's been fully wet all the way through. The only dry running they've had was about half an hour, 45 minutes or so in free practice earlier on. So this is a little bit of a voyage of discovery for many of the drivers. As due to racing, they go to the top of the shop with a 2:25.542, and immediately usurped by Viper Niza Racing, Melvin Moe and their Mercedes AMG. Great to see that Malaysian squad here. 2:23.970. I think we'll see those lap times tumble even in this session, let alone throughout the whole qualifying. So they're having to learn a new set of Michelin tyres. How do those Michelin tyres work on this tarmac? This is new tarmac since they were here last year as well. And so, yes, they've had practice. Yes, they know where the circuit goes. It has gone the same way for many years now. But with practice in wet conditions, they are learning how much grip. And these gentleman drivers, mainly in this early session, really having to learn fast in a session which only has 9 minutes left on it. And we've only just started getting those first lap times in. So if you spin, if you have an issue, if you don't get out on track early enough. And I noticed that Ajith Kumar's 901 Porsche is still in the pits and hasn't come out onto circuit. We're also missing 921, which is Mulner Motorsport. They're not registered to be out on track. That's difficult because we do need a time in each of the sessions to create an average lap time to then have that qualifying position sorted. If you miss a session, then it's impossible to get that average, and unfortunately you do start at the back of the field.
And number 921, Mulner Motorsport, they've got to be one of the favourites to battle in the fight for 992. They were right in the mix all the way through in Mugello, and it didn't quite go their way at the last moment. But that is if they don't get qualifying, that's not good. Now their sister, they've got two cars, Mulner, this weekend. 918. In fact, both are showing as they're going out
now,
of the pits now, but they've left that pretty tight. As Nick Sulewski's going to take the 918 car out, and Julian Hanses the 921. As Alexander Prins goes to the top of the shop then for Hoffer Racing, 2:18.462. Now we're starting to get some lap times. His second overall in a Porsche 992 Cup car, Fabian Dans, the ungraded driver in the Red Camel Jordan's car, who immediately gets put back to fourth as Herbert's come through with Ralph Bowen. Now this number 91 Herbert car, a little bit different. It's a new evolution of the Porsche GT3R. It's actually running as a prototype this weekend, and in fact it's just disappeared off the timing screen right now. That's because it's running in the SP4 category, so it'll be immediately put to the back. We've got to keep a close watch on that machine.
TCE cars, we've got a TCR in the entry list for the AS Best Racing team, where they've got a Cupra TCR. It's joined in TCX by one other that I can't see on my entry list.
The JMEC BMW.
Yes, of course.
The big accident for the Continental Audi. That's a huge accident. And I'm just trying to pick where that is on
Eau Rouge,
number 69. You're right, it is Eau Rouge.
Top of Eau Rouge. We're going to get a replay here already. Runs the curb on the entrance, runs the curb on the exits, get a little twitch in the middle of Radiant, and a classic Eau Rouge accident, I'm afraid, spits you off into the barrier on the outside where the pit lane comes in, and that is red flag the session with 6 minutes and 40 seconds remaining, which gives everybody enough time to get back into the pits, back out again when we resume this first session.
I would think that's pretty good news as well for Mulner Motorsport as well. Just allows them to kind of get back going again. Well, that's understandably red flag in that situation. And Eau Rouge is, I mean, it's such a serious set of corners, isn't it? And it looked like there'd been, just as he was tipping into the very first left of that complex, the car was already starting to protest a little bit, and he very nearly gathered it up. But it doesn't take much, and there isn't. They've improved the runoffs there over the years, but it is, you know, if you lose it, you are going to end up in the barrier, and you'd be very lucky not to. So that's such a shame for Continental Racing. Vasily Vladikin, unfortunately, coming a cropper there.
Now remember what we saw in Mugello last time out. It does take these Michelin tyres, especially in colder conditions, a bit of time to get up into temperature. We're looking in the pits with Ajith Kumar's new colours. We've got to get used to this grey machine run by Red Ant Racing now. A change in the early part of the weekend, and actually Diana's down there. Why have they not come out yet, Diana?
They had, Ben, I've just been into the garage, just come out as you were talking about it, but they had a throttle issue, so which meant that they had to drop the engine to do the repair that they needed to do. So that's why they were looking like they were just changing engine. It wasn't just the engine, it was another issue. The guys are working quite hard. They're more or less there. They've got 7 minutes of this first session to go. I don't think they're going to get out for this first part of qualifying, to be honest. But the driver's behind, one of the drivers is behind the wheel, ready and waiting to go.
Good to see Vladikin jumping out, Vasily Vladikin jumping out of his Audi and into the medical car. under his own speed. He was 4th fastest, had just set a 2 minutes 22.301, which was enough for 4th fastest. So actually, I was going to say that perhaps those rear tyres weren't quite up to temperature. They were up to temperature enough to do a half decent lap, and yeah, he just pitched it in, and the rears just didn't stick like he was expecting.
It's so difficult. And of course, this is, for the drivers, there is very, very little data in their brain, if you like, of what the car is behaving like through a dry Eau Rouge. They've had wet Eau Rouge all week. But to understand what you can get to, and you know, having just done a 2 minute 22, you would think that, yeah, it was just getting into the groove there. Hopefully they can get that Audi R8 LMS GT3 repaired. I did see a few Audi Sport Customer Racing jackets at breakfast this morning, so hopefully that means they've got a truck here with some parts and things, and the car's fixable. But you never know. Sometimes it can be a lottery.
The car's gone into the barrier rear left side, so the front end of the car should be good. I don't think it got spat round too much to the front, and even as we look at it, the rear right doesn't look too bad. So the difficulty is any chassis damage, and we know that we've already seen a couple of teams having to find spare cars to be able to go racing this weekend after accidents here up at Eau Rouge, for RPM, for instance, for Ajith Kumar as well, but there are spare cars knocking around. There's lots of teams around this area, and so potentially still an opportunity for Continental Racing, run by Simpson Motorsport, to continue with the weekend. We don't go racing until just before midday tomorrow, so almost 20 hours to be able to rebuild a car and get to the back of the starting grid. And you know, that's one of the great things about Creventic, is just because you've had a big accident here in an official session doesn't mean your weekend's over. They can definitely get themselves back up to speed and enjoy some track time across the weekend. No, that's very important. It's, the Creventic organisation, they totally understand what the teams and drivers are looking for out of their weekend, and yeah, you don't want it to be ended if it can be continued after an accident like that. So let's run through the times then as things were, because we had quite a few indicative times there. So fastest so far is Hoffer Racing with a 2:18.462 set by Alexander Prince. 2:19.936 for Ayrton Redon for Red Ant Racing. Now, Ayrton Redon is not an AM driver, but there are no AM drivers in that car, so they can do whatever order they please. Dustin Blattner for Kessel Racing in number 8 Ferrari, 2:20.828. That's third quickest. Then in fourth, it was that Continental Audi, so they were running strongly, unfortunately, before that accident. Juta Racing, 2:22.597 for Nicolas Michelin in that Audi. Then it was the Ziggo Sport Tempesta Porsche. That's actually run by Herberth Motorsport. Myself and Diana Binks had a little peek around their garage earlier on. We got taken around by Robert Renault, which is very nice of him. 2:23.485 for Jonathan Hui. Oliver Campos, E2P Racing, 2:24.794. So the tyre repair still goes on, which is good. E2P Racing, I bumped into Antonio Cinero, one of the drivers, in the toilet actually. We're washing the driver of the toilet? Oh, you were in the toilet when you bumped?
No, I was at the sink, okay. But in the bathroom.
Okay.
And I was asking him about. I said, "Is the car fixed?" He said, "Yeah, it's great, but it needed a whole new engine after Magellan."
Yeah.
And he was explaining how the engine, basically, as he went backwards, the engine just moved, and it completely cooked the engine in a brand new car. So,
yeah, reminder that he had a spin, just an innocuous spin, and rolled off onto the grass, got back onto the circuit with only a little bit of sort of grass damage, and then spent the rest of the 8 hours in the garage trying to work out why the engine wasn't working. Yeah. They had cameras in the engine. They were looking at all kinds of things. Turbo replacement. They go out for a couple of laps, try something, come back, it wouldn't be fixed. And as Peter's described there, just that rolling back motion in gear potentially ended up needing a completely new replacement engine. We've just seen that Red Ant have got Ajit Kumar's car ready to go. That's had a change. I thought at lunchtime I heard their discussion about the change of engine, but because they've moved from Bas Kutten to Red Ant across the last 2 days. I wasn't entirely sure who had the new engine at what point.
New car.
But a new car and now a new engine.
As well as, okay, yes. So this is Ajith Kumar Racing, changing of team. It looks like this red flag is actually going to play in the hands of Ajith Kumar Racing by Red Ant. Red Ant, of course, aren't based that far away, and they've been able to find an extra car to go. And Ajith Kumar's helmeted up, ready to go, ready to jump in the car. And without this red flag, they wouldn't have got the chance to go qualifying. Now they may well get the chance to get out there, get a lap in, which is hugely important. Hard work going on for the SPA FRANCORCHAMPS circuit team here. Manitou hard at work. I feel like we need to send a sponsorship proposal to Manitou, because they get plenty of airtime. They did at Mugello anyway, towing everyone out the gravel.
Yes, absolutely. I was also commentating with somebody here. I don't remember what it was for. Oh, it was for Formula One, and the commentator just kept name checking Vervi Dépannage, which is the pickup truck guys that drag all the cars out of the barriers. As we take a look on the live stream, another replay of Vasily Vladikin unfortunately going into the barriers once again. And this is such an easy thing to do, just a little bit too much work at the wheel, asking too much of the car, and it breaks away from you. But Vervi Dépannage always heading out onto circuit whenever there's an issue, and then the Manitou getting to work with replacing the tyre stack. So the car has punctured the retaining wall, and the tyre stack needs to be replaced. There is a massive paddock full of stacks ready to go here at Spa. I remember when you do a full lap of walking around the circuit, it's on the outside of Pouhon. There's a big sort of tyre stack full of tyres, and they will have picked up some of those, some spares, brought them over. They will be put into position, and then the band will go across them. I hope they're not going to try and start painting them. There is a man with some yellow paint, I can see. That's unnecessary at this stage. We would like to just carry on, please. But the tyre stack is going to be put into place, and we can go back.
So let's get back down to the pits then. Diana Binks has more for us.
Yes, I'm in the pit lane with a very familiar face and voice. John Heinhoff, of course, is in the pit lane with me this weekend. Looking forward to working with you again, John.
I love this place, I really do. I was laughed at this morning. It was chilly, and it was a bit damp this morning when we came out of the hotel. I was laughed at for coming out like this. But look at this weather now. When we were in the drivers' briefing, I said to the drivers this morning, look, I've come out on a sort of a split strategy. I've got cold and potentially wet, but I've gone for the dry setup in the basic level. So I did go for the dry setup. It's great. This is not ideal, Di, with the red flag. Few teams just about getting into their stride. There's still 2 sessions still to go, of course, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens. This circuit is absolutely superb, and this is the best weather they've had all week. It's going to be like this across the weekend. I'm going to stay being positive. I think the weather forecast said around about 18, 19 degrees Celsius with a chance of rain. I'll take the 18 and 19 degrees Celsius, because as you know, we don't have to wear the pit lane fireproofs here, because all of the refuelling is actually done right at the end of the old endurance pits. The rain I can do without, but as I said this morning, if it does rain, I'd rather have wet legs, because your skin's waterproof. Otherwise you'd soak up the bath, wouldn't you, when you got in, rather than damp jeans. So I'm staying with this. I'm going with this. This is my weekend look, and we are looking forward to a splendid weekend of racing.
I can honestly say you will never get me in shorts in the pit lane. I can guarantee that. It's not something people want to see either. So I'll stay with that. John, I was talking to some of the drivers earlier before qualifying got underway, and sort of really talking. We know it's a 12-hour race that we're going into, and some drivers are of the mind, you know, it's not overly important where we qualify, because so much can happen and will happen during the race.
And I understand that. And yet it opens up the strategy, doesn't it, in terms of where you qualify. You get a better rundown through the first few corners, through the first few laps, which tends to mean that you've got a far better opportunity than to be in with a shout later on. Now, ultimately, you might say, and I would go with this train of thought, that the last hour or so on Saturday before we come to the break, so after that first 5 hours of racing, that's where you need to find your pace, and you have to be on the lead lap in class at the end of that. We saw it at Michelin, didn't we? The fantastic drive back by, it was Jake Hill in the Era car, and I've just been talking to Jakey actually and congratulating him on that. He pulled a lap back, and that was absolutely critical to the result on Sunday. And that will be exactly the same here. The slightly longer part of the race is on Sunday, the 7-hour part of the race. And if you have got the pace and you can use it on Saturday in that last hour, hour and a half, that's when you have to be fast. But opening that up, as I said, you've got to have a car that's straight, that's tracking well, that's wearing its Michelin tyres well, and therefore that means staying out of trouble. Where are you going to stay out of trouble? Front of the grid. So it comes round full circle, and to me, the whole mentality starts with qualifying. And if you qualify well, it gives you a better idea of where you're going to be. Sounds like we're getting back underway.
It does, yeah. They're firing up and they're moving out of the pit lane. So we'll head back to Peter and Ben.
Thank you, Di. Thank you, John. A few updates here from the booth. The qualifying 2 and 3 sessions, which will be coming up after this, will be only 12 minutes instead of 15 minutes. Now, that's really quite key because you've got so little time to get out there, and you'll only be able to get 3 flying laps in, maybe 4, possibly. You know, really, by the time you get up there and get the tyres up to temperature and pressure, very, very tricky indeed. There were a few lap times disallowed during that opening spurt of qualifying, which went on for about 8 and a bit minutes or so. The Seb Lejeune Porsche 992 had a track limit infringement, lap time disallowed. The 91 Porsche had 2. That's Ralph Bowen really stretching the track limits. The 909, that's one of the Porsche Cup cars, that's Red Camel Jordan's Fabian Dance. The Vortex 701, the 65, which is Viper Niza Racing as well. So there's quite a few lap times already. So race control, they are watching, Ben, to see who's stretching the limits of the track to its full boundary.
So you've got this risk of track limits, and we've just gone through kind of 3 or 4 different places where it's very easy to go all 4 wheels off the circuit, and you've got less time to actually make that lap time count. So you've got to be super careful here. If you find yourself off circuit and losing a lap time, you don't have many other opportunities to rectify that situation. They've got to be so careful. For instance, Fabian Dance, we mentioned his really good lap time, didn't we? Got himself up into 2nd at the time, and it would have been good enough for 4th or 5th. Now he has no lap time on the board. Now we have to start afresh. There's about 6 or 7 cars in that situation that either have very slow lap times because that was their warming up lap, or they have no lap times at all. Ralph Bowen, obviously, because he's lost a lap time. Fabian Dance has lost a lap time. Both the Mulner Motorsport 992s didn't set lap times. Ajith Kumar Racing didn't set a lap time either. Scuderia Praha, the Ferrari, and Lisa Clark in her Ferrari did not set lap times at all. So we are now queuing up at the end of pit lane. Cars have been allowed to be released to go down to the end of the endurance pits. Remember, in Spa, you've got opposite the start and finish line for Formula 1 is the Formula 1 pit lane, and then as you go down towards Eau Rouge on the right hand side, you then have the endurance pit lane. We don't have cars in the endurance pits as such, but you do, for instance, for the Spa 24 hours, and whenever you're here, for instance, when in Formula 1, that will be Formula 2 pit lane and pit garages. That is where our refueling happens, and our refueling bays are at the end of the pit lane. But what it does mean is the pits are insanely long and it does take a long time to go in, go out, get fueled. So I mean, Michelin is quite long, right, because it's quite a long straight, but Spa, it costs you a lot to do a pit stop.
And I think that will affect the strategy. You know, we know certain teams have different approaches going whether you pit under a code 60 in the race. That's something that's different here in the Michelin 24-hour series, where we don't have safety cars. We have basically a whole field neutralization where everybody goes down to 60 kilometers an hour. And at that point, you can come into the pits, and in nearly all cases, you can fill up 25% of your fuel allocation. Some get a little bit more depending on the type of team that they are. But in general, but you'll still see teams taking that option as often as they can if they're under code 60 to come in and get the pit stops done. whether that'll be the case, I think that might actually be even more exaggerated, because a green flag pit stop here is going to cost so much time, because it's such a long pit lane. So the big queue of cars ready to go, led by Julian Hanses in the 921 Milner Motorsport car. Of course, a local race for Milner Motorsport as well, a team very well known at the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which isn't a million miles away either.
About an hour's drive.
It's amazing, isn't it? Two iconic circuits so close together in two different countries too. We've now got a Fendt tractor. Not entirely sure what the role of the Fendt tractor is, but some great high-speed reversing being shown.
He's up at La Source as well, so not close to the scene of the accident, which the tyre stack has now been replaced, but where the impact was with the Audi, that has moved all of the rain that was in those tyres onto the ground. So these cars have got to be very, very careful as they exit pit lane. They are allowed to release the pit limiter at the bottom of Eau Rouge, so as you cross the river, so you can then accelerate up the hill, but you are going parallel to Eau Rouge on the right-hand side, in between the white lines, and then as you just crest the rise on the left, that's where all the water is. So super careful not to spin up and find yourself spinning in pit lane and going into the wall. We still got 6 minutes and 40 seconds remaining of this qualifying 1 session before we then move in to qualifying 2 and 3, and as Peter said, that's been reduced in time to 12 minutes.
And if we get a much longer delay, they could be reduced even further.
Yep.
Because, of course, as you mentioned, we do have a curfew here that we've got to be aware of. And there's lots of other racing going on. The Prototype Cup Germany are part of the package this weekend, and also Caterham 7 racing, which we'll have coverage of a little bit later on Preventing Motorsports TV, and I believe on RS1 as well. Unfortunately, a very sad-looking Simpson Motorsport Continental Racing Audi has arrived on the flatbed. The rear left tyre bent well out of shape, but the Simpson crew, they'll go to work and they'll do their best to try and get that car prepped and ready to go racing tomorrow. And you know, as a GT3 car as well, starting from the back, it's not a total disaster. I think the main thing is get to the start line tomorrow. The team already having a look to say, okay, what parts do we need? Right, get into the truck, get in the queue for the spare parts truck.
I think, as we speculated, the front end looks undamaged, which is great news. Haven't managed to have a look at the rear right. It's the rear left that's taken most of the impact. The annoying thing for Simpson is they're not a local team, so there's so many Belgian, German teams that could be going back to their factory or easily getting spare chassis or parts from home. Simpson Motorsport, UK based, it's not like they're going to be driving overnight back to the factory and getting themselves a spare car. So if they need a spare car, then it's going to have to come from somewhere around here. I wonder if come to you have still got an Audis knocking about. They used to have a lot.
Excellent point. Yeah, then possibly is already John Hindhaug's having a look in there. But Diana Binks has got an update for us on this very car, the number 69 Continental Racing Audi. Di.
Yeah, Seb, our cameraman, is watching what's going on as the car's being taken off that truck. But Alistair from the team, from the Continental Racing by Simpson Motorsport, looks not in a good way when you see it on the back of that flat pack. But you've just had a very quick look and you just said to me it's not as bad as it looks.
Well, we've got to bring it into the garage and inspect it properly. We need to see what needs repairing, because the priority is we need to put a safe car out tomorrow. So first of all, it's going to be a lot of work for the lads over the next few hours, see where we're at, and then we've got to make a decision on the best steps for tomorrow's race and whether we can get back out. We hope to be out, but for now it doesn't look brilliant.
It doesn't from this side, as we just see some of the bodywork coming off the car now as your team are sort of dealing with what they need to. What was the sort of feedback from, I don't know which driver was behind the wheel actually when that happened?
So the feedback was that he didn't actually say anything on the radio. We checked he was okay. We got back from that. He's obviously gone back off in to the medical centre. Julian, team manager's over there, just making sure he's okay now. And yeah, we'll see what happens from here. Hopefully we can see you tomorrow. Yeah,
we'll just move out of the way while they get the car back in to the garage. Thanks very much for that, Alistair. I'm sure that your guys, if they can do it, they will get that on track if they can.
Oh, of course. We've had a lot of late nights recently. Engine change last night. It'll just be another one to add to the list.
Well, you're still smiling. That's a good sign.
You've got to smile through these things, haven't you? It's motorsport.
OK, the best of luck.
Thank you.
brilliant spirit there from Simpson Motorsport that they're going to have a go and hopefully try and get that car repaired. Let's see.
With an engine change already
that's
under their belt.
That's job. Yeah, changing one of those big 5.2 litre V10. There's, the crew's still just getting all the tyre stacks ready, and the thing is that has got to be absolutely right before we send cars back going again. We have had a notification that in just around 4 minutes time the track will go green again,
and they've now informed us that there will be no qualifying 3, so there'll be a long qualifying 2 session, but there will be no qualifying 3 session. How that affects which driver is allowed to take part in qualifying 2, you probably know the rules better than me, Peter, but qualifying 2 usually has...
It's free after that.
It's free after that, okay.
The only restricted session, if you like, is this one, session 1, where if you have an AM driver, you must put them in the car. However, if you have a car full of AM drivers, obviously put whoever you like in when. But so that could definitely change the strategy. So there could be some drivers quickly getting their helmets and gloves on right now, because, you know, there's lineups like Aero Motorsport, for example. They potentially could have been putting, you know, they've got to run Dwight Merriman in this first session, but then they've got the choice of Kyle Tilley, Jake Hill and Ryan DL. You would think that they would have had, you know, they would have had Jake Killen and then Ryan DL in based on their gradings. But now do you put Ryan DL in, or do you put, but the thing is, Jake Hill's been so impressive, but then, you know, there's lots of examples of teams up and down the road now where they might have been putting their professional driver in the final session. Now they might bring that forward. So let's see.
Diana needs to have a look in the pits to see if anyone's tossing coins or playing rock, paper, scissors, because I imagine for some teams it will be a little bit like that. As you say, I'm not sure who I'd put in between Ryan DL and Jake Hill. Jake's got plenty of experience around this circuit in classics, not in GT3s, because he is quite new to the world of GT3 racing. Last weekend he was at the members meeting at Goodwood driving Cortinas, and then he's been testing British touring cars in between times because they had their launch day. So he's been in all kinds of machinery. But there is lineups across the board. What about the venture team where you've got Matthew George and Matthew Higgins? They're kind of equal, basically. So I think the only way to decide is a bit of rock, paper, scissors.
That's where the team manager's got to have conviction and say, right, in you get, off you go. I would think that Herbeth Motorsport, they'd likely put Lauren Heinrich in for their number 91 SP4 class Porsche 911 GT3R. If you're wondering what on earth is an SP4 class, that's a prototype class. So the new version of the Porsche 911 GT3R, of which we have a few in the field this weekend, that is an evolution version which hasn't actually been officially homologated yet. It's still a prototype effectively, and will be homologated for the 2026 season, and it's in testing at the moment. It is very much an Evo kit, so it's a set of parts that you apply to an existing car. But that they're testing it this weekend. We saw it with the BMW M4 before it was officially homologated. We saw that run at the Sebring 24 hours in 2021. Goodness, that's you think the M4's been with us for that amount of time. So it's just one of the other things that is opened up here in the Michelin 24-hour series. And Porsche Motorsport approached Herbeth Motorsport to say, can we come and test the car? And I think it's a great idea.
Over the last couple of years, we have seen both BMW, Porsche and other manufacturers use Creventic as their proving ground for their new version of their cars, because it offers so much track time under race conditions. They are not necessarily so bothered about their ultimate performance, but it helps to gauge yourself against the cars that are already out there. And with an Evo kit such as this, which is not too dissimilar to what they have already, they have a good opportunity to really see how they compare against Mulder Motorsport, for instance. Really interesting, actually, Herbeth, how when we were speaking to Robert Renner earlier, he was talking about all the little changes as the green flag comes out to get this qualifying session back underway with that Herbeth car that we're talking about, this new for 2026 prototype, with all the different changes to it, the little changes to the floor to improve cooling in certain areas, cooling for the gearbox, etc. Changes to the kinematics to try and reduce the pitch sensitivity of the car, electronic changes,
in terms of a little bit of changes to TC and ABS. A lot of it's to do with the electronics. And interestingly, the front bodywork is actually quite similar to what they used to use at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. So it's just tiny little changes to it, but trying to make it an even broader, even more impressive package. First time they tested it was actually just after the Sebring 12H, which they won in GTD Pro, and then the car is going to be tested here, of course, and then Cineulagam Racing Team will test it in a few weeks' time. And the consistent aspect through all of that is Lauren Heinrich, the Porsche Works driver, who's been basically, he's been tasked with the development and the testing, the main driver for that. Right, 5 minutes and 24 seconds remaining, and not a lot of time to get out there, get some heat in the tyres, and whether we're actually going to see an improvement in any of the times already set, Ben, that's maybe up for question.
Very exciting news for those that have followed Creventic over the last few years. The Vortexes, we've got two 2.0s. I'm not sure this has happened in my lifetime. They're different colours.
I spotted that as well. A red Vortex, yes, the Vortex 2.0. They've started to basically commercialise the car now and starting to build cars for customers. This new version has made such a big improvement and has had a lot of success in the GTX category, really making that category its own, and basically beat a lot of packages from much bigger manufacturers. It's seen off competition from Lamborghini Super Trofeo cars, Porsche Cup cars with different adaptations to them, what have you, but that Vortex is great. And yeah, a red Vortex is going to take a little bit of getting used to, but I think it looks superb. So tyre temperature, pressure, really critical here to get out there, get the tyres going and try and fit in a good lap here, because of course with two qualifying sessions, these lap times effectively become even more important because you're not extrapolating them across 3 sessions, so they become more of the mix, if you like.
Half of the average rather than a third. We have a red Vortex for 702 and an orange traditional coloured Vortex for 701, which has just been off the circuit, I think, because we saw it running wide at Blanchimont, but it continues to roll with Lionel Amorouche, who actually will be in both cars. Amorouche is going to drive the 701 and the 702 as the part owner and part designer of the Vortex. And the customer is Julien Bollet and Alexandre de Bernardis in the 702 red machine, and more well-known names, Philippe Bonnell and Cyril Calmont in the 701 for those of you fans of Vortex. But now, I don't know if you can, but they're going to try and get some fast lap times in. Just enough time if you were at the head of the queue to get a second lap in, because a lot of these cars crossing the stripe with over 3 minutes remaining. Lap times in the 2:20 something or others. So this actually, you should be able to consider this a warm-up lap and then push on that last lap if you're feeling risky.
Like a build lap almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that could well be the case. Sometimes you can't, you can't push water uphill sometimes if the tyre performance isn't there. That's sometimes you have to be realistic in terms of what the car will actually give.
We are missing some cars though. 452 Guy Stewart and Sorg Rennsport Porsche in GT4, not out on circuit. Darren Curry in the 111 Racing IRC GT from Australia. He hasn't left the pits, and neither has the 71 Jutta Racing Audi. So a few cars not being able to make it out. Those are the only 3 that are not going to improve their lap times.
Diana Binks has more for us in the pits. Diana.
Just picking up on what Ben was saying there are quite a few cars sitting here in the pit lane. Jutta Racing, the number 71 Audi, that's sitting here with the heat tyres, or trying to keep that, but they're not looking like they're going out on this session, so they obviously are waiting just to restart the next one, but keeping the tyres as warm as possible.
Other thing to note is that you are not allowed to take those tyres off during this session, nor change them. And unfortunately, car 23, which is Pellin Racing, that's the second of the Pellin Racing cars that was entered into Mugello but never exited the pits. Terjen Haugen and Paolo Roberti, they've been given a 10-place grid penalty for fiddling with their tyres during that red flag session, whether they remove them by mistake or necessary, but unfortunately they will lose 10 places on the grid.
That's just, yeah, one that one of the unique rules you've got to be on top of. It's Kevin Clark in the TCE TCX BMW E46. I tell you, it's truly bizarre for me seeing this car on circuit, given I've seen it compete at Knockhill, win its class in time attack events, the Superlap Scotland at Knockhill, and now it's here at Spa going through Eau Rouge with a totally different paint scheme on it. But yeah, it does bring a smile to my face. They're in basically a head-to-head battle with the TCR Seat Cupra Leon. At the moment, it is JMIC Engineering with that BMW who sit on top of the shop, though. But they're all chasing at the top class in GT3. They're all chasing Alexander Prince's benchmark, which is 218.268. Now we're starting to see some green personal best sectors showing up on the timing screen. And in fact, Alexander Prince is the driver pushing the hardest because he's put an absolute best in sector 2 right now. So could this be an improvement from Alexander Prince as we have 4 seconds left on the clock? So checkered flag is waved now. So if you've already crossed the line, this is your last chance then to see who can get on provisional pole. Of course, it will be averaged out.
And Prince is coming to the line now, so he won't get another lap time. He has to make this one count. The number 11 Hoffa Racing takes the checker flag and does improve to a 2:17.76. But almost every car behind him is improving and going faster. Mulder Motorsport getting themselves up into 4th, but Melvin Moe in the Viper Nisa Racing Mercedes not that far off Alexander Prince, just 0.4 of a second, slotting into 2nd position.
Alexander Prince will be really delighted with that performance. Of course, they're an AM class car, which runs to a slightly different balance of performance than the Pro class cars. So at the moment, we have a Mercedes AMG 123. The 2 top cars are AM cars. The 3rd place car is, or now 4th place car, is Ayrton Redon. The difference is the restrictor. The AM car has a slightly bigger restrictor. It's got 2 restrictors on it. Both are 4 millimeters bigger, which allows more air into the engine and therefore more power. So that does make a difference.
Hoffa Racing, Viper Nisa Racing, Mercedes 1-2. E2P with Oliver Campos getting up to 3rd position in their Aston Martin. Great news after all their troubles in Mugello. That was a good lap from Campos. Most of the field now taking the flag. We've got another clump of cars coming towards the line to improve their lap times, but no one faster than, actually we've got a purple in the middle sector from Gregoire Serves in the Haas RT Audi. That hasn't taken the flag. That could be a challenger for provisional pole here.
He's just coming through the bus stop chicane at the moment. Let's see what Gregory Serves can do here for Haas RT. We didn't see them in Mugello. Fantastic to have them back here in this 12 hours of Spa. They're partly home race. Over the line then comes Gregory Serves, not quite the quickest, a 2:18.003 then. And Gregory, I remember he was called up to race for Haas RT for his first ever GT3 race 2 years ago at Estoril, and he was planning, him and his partner were planning to buy a new sofa, and that went out the window to pay for his entry for so
expensive sofa.
Yes, it was well, quite. You can spend a lot of money on a sofa.
Clearly.
You can spend probably more on GT3 racing, but that was the team, I believe, have a lot of good fun with them, winding him up about this sofa that never quite appeared. But putting in the time there with a 2:18.003. So Alexander Prince, though, quickest. We saw that at Mugello, didn't we, where he was the standout driver amongst a lot of the AM cars. And at the moment, we have AM cars 1, 2, 3, and 4. So for the Mercedes AMGs and the Audis, they're naturally aspirated cars, so they run a slightly bigger air restrictor if they're an AM car, which gives them a little bit more air and a little bit more power. The E2P Racing Aston Martin is also an AM car. It will run just slightly higher turbo boost than an equivalent Pro car. But job done for Alexander Prince so far.
What we're getting, though, is a couple of lap times being taken away from drivers, and of course only 1 lap time set. So I'm afraid Scuderia Praha have had their fastest lap time removed. They're also the Cupra 102, they've had their best lap time removed, and Ziggo Sport Tempesta Racing, there's a new name to get our head around, 193 Porsche, they have had their best time removed as well. So I'm hoping that's it, but that does just remove the potential. Denis Vasek for Scuderia Praha, only 10th after that removal of not necessarily his fastest lap time, but the lap time in which they infringed track limits.
Looks like the 91 Herbert Porsche, they're going to put Lauren Heinrich in for this final qualifying session. I didn't quite catch the driver going into the Hoffer Mercedes.
Haas-RT get their lap time removed as well, I'm afraid.
No.
So
that was Gregory Servet, and that puts him down all of a sudden to 14th. And it goes from a 218 flat to a 222.9. Oh, track limits.
And it's at Blanchimont, so running wide on the exit of Blanchimont. In a Formula 1 car, easy flat, you don't need to worry about track limits there, but in a GT3 car where the car is almost floating over the surface, you want to go flat out. You think you can on fresh new tyres. You might get a little twitch. You might simply just run wide, 4 wheels off, and instantly that time is disallowed. So
it is flat through there, though. 155 miles an hour.
Well, yes,
flat.
If everything's working good.
If everything's working, you're right. Yeah, let's go through the times then. Alexander Prince, 2:17.767, your top time right now. But of course, section 2 coming up shortly. Viper Niza Racing, a 2:18.173 from Melvin Moe. Then it was Oliver Campos for E2P Racing with a 2:19.292. Ayrton Redon in the first of the Pro cards, the 93 Mercedes, 2:19.936. Then it's Kessel Racing with their Ferrari, Dustin Blattner, 2:20 flat. Milner Motorsport, what a lap from Julian Hanses, 6th overall in a Porsche Cup car. Amazing. It's actually just gone slightly faster than the number 91 Herbert Motorsport car. That's the new for 2026 prototype of the 911 GT3R, driven by Ralph Bowen. Milner Motorsport's 918 car, also 8th overall. Fantastic stuff. Red Camel Jordans, they sit in 9th right now with Fabian Dance, and Scuderia Praha sit in 10th. Well, we believe they still stay in 10th after that slight adjustment in the times. Continental Racing, unfortunately the 11th fastest time, but it won't mean anything because their car is very much damaged after that incident at Eau Rouge. Ziggo Sport Tempesta Racing are 12th. Then it was Duta Racing, Haas-RT, Seb Lejeune, Homeguard Motorsport, RPM Racing, ARC Bratislava and Proton Huber. Then it was Pellin Racing were 21st, followed by Ajith Kumar Racing, Scuderia Freya Ferron, Era Motorsport, Haas-RT, Van Berlo, Hamofa, the 2 Vortexes, and Pellin Racing rounding out the top 30. As we go green flag for the next qualifying session, let's quickly get down to Diana Binks.
I'm at Hoffer Racing with Alexander Prince, who's just jumped out of the car. Alexander, that was a disrupted session, but how satisfied are you that you set that quickest time to take provisional pole for the moment?
Yeah, really satisfied. It was the first part of my quali. I went out. Like always, we tried to figure out where the best position for myself on the track. It went quite well in the first part. Then I got the red flag. And then I got a little bit worried inside the car because, for sure, the tire's cooling down. And then I know all the other guys behind, they will push like hell. So will I be able to find, again, like a space where I can really able to perform in? Then in my first flying lap, I overpushed. So I lost the gap. The advantage, but then in the second lap I could improve my time, and then I stepped out, and then the guy said, okay, you're P1. I said, whoa, okay. A little bit surprising, but I think it's always like a big gamble in the qualifying. We were lucky with the traffic, so and now we are crossing fingers for Thorsten, how he will bring it home, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, you showed really strongly, didn't you, on the first European round at Mugello, so you look like you're just bringing that momentum in.
Yes, we always try to focus on the good stuff from the last race. It was for sure disappointing for us as a driver, especially for the teams. For our team, they are working so hard. And if, especially myself, I did a mistake, what cost us a repair in Mugello, so 5 laps penalty. So I felt really bad afterwards. But now I'm feeling that I can give it back maybe, and I will push like hell here in Spa. That the guys can celebrate, yeah, for sure.
How would you, as a driver, describe Spa?
Spa is, as a child, for sure, I have been here as a child, watching Formula 1, and at one point you say, there would be a dream come true to race here at once. Now I have the chance with Hofer Racing to do it with a GT3 car. an aero car. It's just thrilling. But at the first day you arrive here, it's also that you feel like you have a bit more respect. You always have respect for the tracks, but here in Spa it is like special. You know for sure you can be like a hero, or you can lose it all and look like a dumb beep. It's just pure fun to race here in Spa. It's really nice that Creventic is always get the challenge to bring here a race for us as teams. I really enjoyed it. It's pure fun, especially now when it's getting dry, a little bit more sun, hopefully. Also for the spectators. So I really enjoyed it.
Alexander, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. As I leave you down here in the pit lane, guys, it's the flashes of sunshine that we did have through the clouds has gone, and I'm afraid it's a few dark clouds around us now.
It's okay. We've only got 11 minutes left of our qualifying session, so let's get on with it. And we've got our most experienced drivers, in theory, out on circuit right now. So imagine that the live timing is going to develop quite a lot across our 11 minutes left of the session. Purple laps coming in from Lauren Heinrich in the SP4 Herbert Motorsport developed Porsche. We've also got Felice Yalmini with the purple sector, but he's not yet on a fast lap. The car on your screen is Torsten Kratz, who's taken over the Hoffer Racing Mercedes, and at the moment with a 0.4 of a second advantage over the rest of the field.
Torsten Kratz, a 4-time winner in class at the Nürburgring 24. Like many of the Hoffer Racing crew are, they've raced a lot at the Nürburgring over the years. Still getting the car up to, getting the tyres up to back to their temperature and pressure again, just having to just dab the brakes before going into Blanchimont. Still a little bit on tiptoes, really. So Torsten Kratz for Hoffer Racing, Douglas Cole for Viper Nisa Racing, Antonio Cenero is taking over the E2P racing car, Kobe De Bruyker for Red Ant Racing. Look out for Martin Rump as well in the leading Porsche 992 Cup car as well. Torsten Kratz over the line then. It's a 2:18.192. Strong opening lap there of this session. But just as I say that, Lauren Heinrich goes to the top with a 2:18.398. That's the quickest time we've seen so far. In fact, no, it isn't actually. Torsten Kratz 2:18.192. He's actually quicker than Heinrich has gone. So the Mercedes looking really strong right now, and it does run as the heaviest car in the category at 1,340 kilos, but it's got great power and great torque. And I tell you what, when you're dragging up that hill all the way from Eau Rouge, all the way up the hill, all the way to Lacombe, you need grunt there, and that's exactly what that Mercedes has got. Martin Rump on the average times, now this will adjust. The Milner Motorsport leading Porsche Cup car is now second overall, as is third overall the Red Camel Jordan's Porsche Cup car.
And this is where I expect the pro cars to come into their own, because they're not having to combine their lap times with a Silver or an AM driver, although you would expect that to have played out more obviously in the first of our sessions rather than this one. But I did have a look at that 921 and thought, oh, Martin Rump's in there. Well, that's going to be a very fast car, and it has been proven so far, but only 14 cars with a lap time right now, and so far green flag throughout the session. 8.5 minutes remaining. Plenty of time still to improve. Remember, these Michelin tyres in 11 degrees of temperature, they take a couple of laps to get up to their peak performance.
Nick Saluski, the Nürburgring star, has taken over the Milner Motorsport number 918. It was quite a late entry, or late confirmation of entry, at least. And at the moment, they're sitting 7th in class as Lauren Heinrich. This is very much his baby, the new evolution of the 911 GT3R. Was first to test it after winning the 12 Hours of Sebring, and he's pushing it hard. Just coming across a little bit of traffic though at the bus stop, so it might just thwart this lap here as from Lauren Heinrich, who went absolute best in sector 2. What is it going to be this time around for the rapid young German? 2:18.398 last time by. 2:17.9, so that's the quickest time we've seen so far. But on the averages, Hoffer Racing go back to the top, because Torsten Kratz, his best is now a 2:20 flat. So might we see a surprise pole position here from Hoffer Racing? What a story that would be for that family team. But Kobe De Bruyker for Red Ant Racing has just gone up into second, or has brought the Red Ant Racing car up to second. So it's Hoffer Racing from Red Ant, from Herberth now, E2P in fourth, and Zigosport Tempesta Racing, run by Herberth, that is in fifth right now.
To emphasise how good that lap time was from Alexander Prince, he is still the fastest person in both qualifying sessions. Nobody has gone faster than the 2:17.7 that he was able to do in qualifying one. It also shows that I think we can expect more from this second session in these later laps once the drivers have got their temperature back into the tyres. But remember, they've not got new tyres, so they're not able to, extract brand new tyre performance, whereas Alexander Prince did.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I don't know how much wear they'll have had in these very low temperature track conditions. So Klaus Bachler also going quick. Got held up a little bit, or it went away from him slightly at the end of the lap. He had gone absolute best, as we got the best lap, best lap so far of anybody in the qualifying session. It was just Jake Hill with a 2:17.671, but actually that was quickly usurped by Paolo Roberti in 2:17.495, and that is in the old 488 GT3, the twin-turbo V8.
A car that we saw sitting in the garage in Mugello was on the entry list, but they weren't comfortable with racing in the changeable conditions we had in Mugello, so chose to sit the race out. So great to have that number 23 Pelin Racing car now on the entry list and part of racing conditions. And remember, that was a car that had its best lap time taken away, so Roberti now sits in 9th position in the average times with 2 combined. Proves just such a good performance he was able to do. I thought we were going to see a better improvement from the number 2 Haas Racing, the Haas RT. They've got 2 cars in the field, but Tom Jackson ends up in 13th position. A change at the head of the field, the 91 back up to 2nd spot.
So Lauren Heinrich over the line then, 2:17.553 the last time by. That's his personal best of the session so far. That puts Herbert up into 2nd. Now, with being in the SP4 class, they may well not get to start there. They may start behind all the other cars, but they're here purely to test and to develop that new Evo package for that 911 GT3R, and that Dazzle camouflage livery, black and gold Dazzle camouflage. Of course, Herbert, they're kind of become known for their black and gold colours, which they had such success with last year. Unfortunately, getting yet another track limit infringement. It's for the number 56 Scuderia Praha car, the Ferrari. That's a Joseph Kral, and that puts that car quite far down the order. In fact, all the way down to 34th overall. So Joseph needs to get a shift on and get a good lap in.
And it's for turns 19 and 17. That's where the monitoring seems to be happening. We're not getting any lap times being deleted from the early part of the lap, from Pouin or from Eau Rouge Radion, where we do tend to see cars running off the circuit up there, but it has to be verified by a race official. It isn't an automated system, and there is a race official monitoring and watching cars going 4 wheels off and then reporting that to the stewards. And it depends on how many officials you've got to be able to cover how many corners. And it looks as though they're doing turn 17 and turn 19. Traffic for our fastest 2. Kratz and Heinrich on the same part of the circuit, coming through the end of the lap with 3 minutes and 40 seconds remaining.
And Heinrich was on a blazer too.
Yeah, I think this is not going to be improvement, whereas De Bruyker and Antonio Saintero in the Aston Martin both could be improving from 3rd and 4th.
Well, I mean, for E2P Racing, their Mugello could not have gone any worse. They've been running, in previous seasons, they've been running the older version of the Porsche 991.2. I mean, quite an old car, and doing the best with it. And then this year, new program, brand new Aston Martin Vantage AMR, and the engine goes in the first event. I mean, how can you count for that? So a great lap here from Antonio Sainero will put him up onto 3rd place there. So great job from the young Spaniard, all Spanish team, of course. It's the E2P is Escuela dos Pilotos,
which
driving
means
school.
Driving school, yeah.
Or school for drivers, maybe more accurately. Christopher Froggatt sets the best lap time we've seen of anybody across both sessions, 2:17 flat there for that driver in the 193 Ziggo Sport Tempesta Racing. I've got a feeling about them this weekend. They've got a good driver lineup. They've got Luke Hartog in the car. Got a great team running the car. Herberth know how to set a Porsche up to win here, particularly, and strategy-wise, they really know how to run a winning car in 24-hour series racing. So let's see. But with this could be it. 2 minutes with 2 minutes 12 left on the clock, and the 29 Ferrari, the Pellin Racing Ferrari, is in the gravel trap. Unfortunately, now
that'll be Gelmini, won't it?
Oh, Felice Gelmini. That is very unlike him. He just set a 2:17.8, so he was going really quick. Now this is on the exit of Pouhon. So he's gotten quite far off the road there into the gravel trap. We stay, the clock is ticking down for now. So
red now.
Red flag now.
Well,
and I don't see us going back green if there's it's been put, the clock timer's still going, but I don't see us going back green with only 1 minute and 36 left on the clock. So that could mean that Hoffer Racing start on overall pole position if the session will not be resumed. So we're getting confirmation of that now. Session will not be resumed. So that means then that the family team, Hoffer Racing, are going to be on pole position. So Michael Kroll, Alexander Prince, Chantal Prince and Torsten Kratz are going to start the 7th Michelin 12 Hours of Spa on pole position. What a story.
Klaus Bachler had just done a lap, a 2:15.9, a good second faster than anybody else had managed across the session. Paolo Roberti, okay, a 16.6 is probably the nearest time that anybody across qualifying had managed, but that was a mighty performance to put the Proton Uber competition Porsche up to 8th spot. Kobe De Bruyker improved in the Red Ant Racing Mercedes up to 2nd position, but ultimately the average lap time between De Bruyker and the Red Ant guys and the Hoffer Racing not good enough for the pole position. And unfortunately, with that red flag, I think there was a few people were still building on laps. Tom Jackson in the Haas RT number 2 was on a probably an ultimate best as well for that car, but they have such a slow qualifying one that they would not have improved massively. A bit of a surprise perhaps for Era, down in 16th position behind 4 992 cars, and Jake Hill doing a 2:17, but that combines with a 2:27. So yeah, average wise again.
What a story for Hoffer. The absolute joy breaking out with Alex Prince and Torsten Kratz doing his job. Bear in mind, this is an all-AM car, and they are going to start on pole position. What a story. And Red Ant Racing as well. You know, this is their first year with the GT3. They were the 992 champions last year, and getting that car up onto the front row, fantastic. Dana Binks, I can imagine the emotions are high right now in Hoffer Racing's garage.
They certainly are, as Torsten brings the car in just to park up on the pit apron here. Alexander's beside himself. I'll have to go to him again, but I really want to get Michael and Chantal as well. Alexander, what does this mean to the team?
Unbelievable. I think it's the first pole position at Corentic, and then here in Spa. That's overwhelming.
They heard it from him, overwhelming. I'll get Torsten in just a second, but I just wanted to see what Michael has to say as well, of course. Michael, you've been standing, watching patiently. The cars come in, your first pole. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, that's the first pole we have. Unluckily, we had to cancel the third stint. So I would have loved to do it, but so we are pole. Otherwise, we haven't had pole, so it's perfect.
I mean, the team are obviously ecstatic, aren't they?
Yeah, of course. This is our first pole we have, and with a new team, so the third race, so everything works fine.
Well done, thank you, Michael. And I think Torsten is just getting out of the car now. He's still got his helmet on, of course, just being congratulated by the whole team. I mean, it really means an awful lot to them, clearly, you can see, and it's great to see. I think Chantal has disappeared. She has definitely disappeared, but we'll speak to Torsten in just a second when he takes his helmet off. If you bear with us for a moment. But yeah, great excitement down here. It's just lovely to see. That's what we love in the 24-hour series. It really means an awful lot to everyone involved, of course. They put in an incredible amount of hard work. So, Torsten, sorry to just jump in as you've just been relieved of your helmet.
Yeah.
For you and your team, for you and the team, this is a great moment to get that P1 in qualifying. What was it like out there on the track for you, managing that last bit of traffic in this disrupted session again?
The team did a great job to position me and the car into the right place. So it was a little bit traffic, but it was not disturbing too much. And Alex did a great job in the first qualifying. So we just have to maintain this. And I was happy that you get this. I think there were 2 fast laps, and it was enough. I thought on my dash that it should be enough to keep the lead. So the team did a great job. So we had so bad weather on Wednesday on the test day, and also this morning. So you have not really too much time to set up the car in the dry conditions, and the car was fantastic. So it was really easy to drive and a lot of fun.
I mean, it's a strong performance from the team, but also a strong performance from this car.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the first time that I'm driving an AMG. It's a bit more, let me say, a bit more lazy, like compared to a mid-engine car. But it's so safe to drive and easy to drive, powerful. So it's quite easy to understand what the car would like to have to be fast. And here is the result.
That's where, I guess, as a driver, it gives you much, extra confidence when you know that you've got that underneath you.
Yeah, definitely. So even if you go to the very limit, the car is very fair to you. So it's really, it shows you what will happen, and it's quite easy to control. And this gives you a lot of confidence. So you can be fast from the first moment, and that's good.
Great. Thank you very much. Well done.
Thank you.
A huge well done to Hofer Racing. What a story. I did wonder if it might be their first ever pole position in Creventic. So they will start on pole position tomorrow alongside the Mercedes of Red Ant Racing. E2P Racing, 3rd in qualifying. Fantastic for the Spanish squad. What a bounce back from Mugello. Herbert Motorsport with their prototype Porsche in 4th. Then it was Ziggo Sport Tempesta Racing in 5th. Scuderia Praha will start from 6th. Then it's Kessel Racing, Proton Huber competition. And then the first of the 992s is Mulna Motorsport, who upset the informed team of Red Camel Jordans. That is going to be a battle which rages on until the checkered flag on Sunday evening. Starting in 11th, or qualifying 11th, is the Jutta Racing Audi, alongside Pylon Racing in their 23 of Paolo Roberti. Haas RT, their cars qualified 13th. Then it was Nick Zaluski for Milner Motorsport in 14th. Continental Racing, we just hope we're going to see them at the start tomorrow. Hopefully they can get that Audi repaired after that incident at Eau Rouge. Seblejew Racing up there at the sharp end of 992 as well. Era Motorsport qualify in 17th. Then it was Haas RT. RPM Racing, a good recovery from them after an incident earlier in the week and getting on up there in one of the top ranked AM cars. They will battle it out again with Ajith Kumar Racing. It's going to be Mugello all over again. So that's the first 20 cars. Qualifying 21st was Holmgard Motorsport with their Porsche 992. Felice Gelmini, 22nd, unfortunately bringing out that red flag late in qualifying, but they've got a quick race car and some good drivers in there too. Van Berle Motorsport qualified 23rd. Then it was Viper Niza Racing, the IRC GT 111 Racing, all the way from Australia, 25th. Neunun Elf, great to have Neunun Elf back. They're in 992 now. They used to run in the GTX class, now in 992. Scuderia Ferron were 27th. Then it was Vortex 28th. Hamofa, they are your pole sitter in GT4, and your TCE pole sitter is JMEC Engineering. James Collins doing the job there, taking over from Kevin Clark to put themselves on pole position in their category. Fantastic stuff from that squad. Great to have them here in Creventic. Well, there were some highlights, there were some thrills and spills. Let's have a little talk through what happened in that interrupted qualifying session. So all seemed calm at the start of qualifying with nice sunshine, although the clouds are just starting to come across now here in Spa. But unfortunately, the tiniest error had the biggest consequences for Continental Racing. Vasily Vatican ending up in the barrier. Red Ant Racing, amazing job to get the Ajith Kumar car back and going again and ready for this qualifying session. Hofer Racing, Alex Prince did his job by putting in a red-hot lap time on new tyres. And then, of course, quite a gap until we got back out on track, and it was down to Torsten Kratz to do the business for Hoffer Racing, despite some superstar drivers being in the lineup. It's Hoffer Racing, the family team, who are on pole position for tomorrow's Michelin 12 Hours of Spa. So be sure to join us tomorrow for the part 1 of the race, 5 hours tomorrow and 7 hours on Sunday to make up the whole 12 hours of Spa Francorchamps. We'll have all the coverage here on Creventic Motorsports Live TV and on RS1, part of the Radio Show Limited network of channels. Local time, 12:50 tomorrow. We'll see you there. Goodbye.
This is something I wanted to experience firsthand. I could form my own team, Ajith Kumar Racing.
Number 901 car, every single time it passes the pits. This is the Ajith Kumar racing car.
மிஸ்டர் கோல்ட் கடலை தான் வாங்குறேன். ஏன் தெரியுமா?
சாதாரண ஆயிலை விட சமையல் டேஸ்டாவும் இருக்கும், ஹெல்தியாவும் இருக்கும்.
Oscar is always on right track. That is why fast track taxi app உடனே டவுன்லோட் பண்ணுங்க.
சம்மர் ஹாலிடேஸ் வந்தாச்சு, நம்ம GT ஹாலிடேஸும் வந்தாச்சு. GT ஹாலிடேஸ், சவுத் இந்தியாஸ் நம்பர் 1 டிராவல் பிராண்ட்.